Powered by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
At least 80 people are confirmed dead, hundreds more still unaccounted for in the California wildfires. I'm Laura Podesta. Coming up, we'll have more on the tough job search teams still face.
And Missoula police shoot and kill a man on Sunday morning. Coming up, how an armed confrontation with the officers led to that shooting.
Just ahead of 6:30 on this Monday, Chilliam and Missy O'Malley with you. Matt has our work week forecast in a moment. Our top story. Again, search teams found another body in Paradise, California yesterday, bringing the total number of people killed by the campfire to 77.
Hundreds are still unaccounted for, although officials say some of those may be safe but just unreachable. CBS's Laura Podesta has our latest.
Residents of Paradise came together last night to remember those who died in the campfire.
This event is about mourning. It is about publicly expressing the sadness and the fear and the anger and the frustration in our hearts.
Cora Dobson came to remember a coworker and friend.
She was an amazing nurse, and I really enjoyed working with her.
But as they mourned, search teams discovered another body in their charred Northern California town. Hundreds are still unaccounted for. Butte County Sheriff Corey Honey told ABC this week he wants evacuees to reach out to their friends and family to let them know they're alive.
And then also check with us and let us know that they're okay so that we can devote our resources to locating people who haven't yet been accounted for.
On Saturday, President Trump toured Paradise with Governor Jerry Brown and Governor-elect Gavin Newsom, two Democrats he's clashed with.
And there have been some back and forth between California leaders and the president, but in the face of tragedy, people tend to rise above some of their lesser propensities.
The president also visited Southern California, where the Woolsey fire has killed at least 3 people. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Now, rain is in the forecast for later this week in Northern California, but unfortunately, this will complicate the search and rescue efforts by washing away fragments of bone and ash, and a downpour could trigger flash floods and mudslides in that area. Unreal.
Yeah,
they just
insult
can't catch
to
a
injury
break.
right there, just unbelievable. Fortunately, we're not dealing with anything remotely like that
No.
here, Matt.
Very comfortable conditions, very dry conditions for the next few days, but we do have some changes heading this direction as you get toward the tail end of that Thanksgiving holiday. May start to change that. Let's talk about the great news. Beautiful conditions out there this morning. Statewide, we do have some cool temperatures out toward Kalispell, a little closer in. Most area temperatures holding into the teens and 20s, a few low teens in a few areas. 31 our current temperature right now in Bozeman at Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport. 18 in Butte, but it does look like temperatures stay pretty mild for most of the week. We're going to break down your forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. It's now 6:32. One person died on Sunday morning after being shot by a Missoula police officer. The incident happened at approximately 8:30 on Sunday morning when Missoula police responded to the report of a disturbance with a gun at a residence on the 600 block of Blaine Street. Missoula Police Department spokesman Sergeant Travis Welch said in a news release that upon the officers' arrival, they encountered a person with a gun and shots were fired. No officers were injured. However, a suspect was deceased at the scene. The shooting investigation has been turned over to the Montana Department of Justice, the Division of Criminal Investigation as well.
Elsewhere, a teen wanted in connection with a shooting that happened last week in Ronan has been arrested. 16-year-old was taken into custody after a pursuit that ended with the suspect's vehicle flipped over and on fire. Ronan Police Department reports that Confederated Salish Kootenai tribal officers saw the suspect in a vehicle in the Pablo area on Saturday and tried to stop the vehicle. Driver refused to stop and a pursuit ensued. Authorities say that during the pursuit, a handgun was thrown from the vehicle and the occupants inside of the vehicle switched spots while the vehicle was being pursued, putting the shooting suspect into the driver's seat. Chase continued until that vehicle crashed and overturned on Duck Road, throwing 2 occupants from the vehicle, which then caught fire. Shooting suspect fled on foot, was eventually taken into custody by law enforcement, taken to a secure facility in Missoula. 16-year-old was wanted in connection with a November 15th shooting that happened in the 300 block of 12th Avenue in Ronan.
And a 52-year-old man from Hanford, California died early Sunday morning in a single vehicle crash in Sheridan. According to the Montana Highway Patrol, the crash occurred around 12:30 a.m. at mile marker 33 on South Main Street. Now, the driver was turning right when his vehicle went off the road on the left-hand side. There was also a 22-year-old passenger in the vehicle. It rolled about 1.5 times and the driver was partially ejected. The passenger was injured in that crash. The extent of his injuries are not known at this time. Montana Highway Patrol says alcohol and speed are suspected as factors in that crash. Neither man was wearing a seatbelt at the time. The crash remains under investigation.
Shifting gears just a bit, Billings resident Wes Nelson and his truck Big Red took home the top prize in the History Channel's Truck Night in America. The show is truck versus terrain competition in Georgia, featuring customized trucks from across the country.
I've been watching this little show called Truck Night in America. It's a little redneck show with real people and real trucks competing down in Georgia. And they had a nationwide call out on Facebook. A friend of mine said, well, you got a pretty good truck. You should try out for that.
So his friends pulled out all the stops to get his truck competition ready. They watched last year's episodes to get an idea of what to prepare for.
I put an electric fan on it, so if I got into heavy water, I could shut the fans off and not flood the motor. My friend Ed came over and we built speaking of flooding, we built a system to flood the windshield with water, because if you can't see, you can't race, and it's real muddy. It's in a swamp. One of the owner of Glass Specialist came to my house and treated all of my windows on the truck with this super slick film stuff. So with the mud had hit it, it'd just fall right off.
Now he and Big Red were ready to compete.
The truck's a war horse. You know, it's the one horse you can go to the stable and you can absolutely count on.
Though Truck Night aired on the History Channel, Wes didn't compete for the notoriety.
Friend John Fuchs was in a really bad accident in Shepherd last year where crashed. They blew a tire out, which put him into the ditch, which put him into a violent roll. Him and his father were both ejected from the truck, and his father died, they've been lifelong friends.
He decided to win it for John.
He broke his neck, he broke his back, he ruptured his spleen. It was just a disaster. And he is recovered now. He's back in fighting form now. He's doing well, and he's working again. Everything's cool. But yeah, I just figured they could use that towards their medical bills. So.
Big Red had never let him down before.
I took my wife on our first date in this truck 28 years ago. We've just done everything in that truck.
And the truck came through. Wes and Big Red won the Truck Night in America competition. In Billings, Jenny Fick, MTN News.
That's incredible. He took his wife out on the first date.
Sunday. That's awesome. No, that's great.
Getting the prize money back to his friend with the terrible accident. Awesome. Wow. That's cool dude.
Very cool.
Anyone.
Congrats.
Montana.
Represent.
Yes. Now we're going to switch gears. Eugene's may be known statewide for its pizza. But there's another item on the menu that has my mouth watering that has developed a loyal following. The ribs.
Yeah, the secret, they say, is in the barbecue sauce, which, like the pizza sauce recipe, hasn't changed in 55 years. It's also this morning's Under the Big Sky.
Under the Big Sky is sponsored by Rocky Mountain Vein Clinic and Markovich Real Estate.
It's a pretty broad menu. I don't think it's a huge menu, but it's not a small menu. You know, we do pizzas, and then in back we do chicken, ribs, burgers, shrimp. We used to do steaks and spaghetti and all that sort of thing, but it just got to be too much. The ribs, which are pretty much, I'd say, they're pretty famous, really, because they're so good. We get people in all the time that just say it's the best ribs they've ever had. We always buy only the best ribs that we can get.
We don't buy cheap. We buy good products. We stick with brands that we know work well. You probably told them that, you know. You've got to start with quality. We've tried some other things and it doesn't work.
The barbecue sauce, we've been using that same recipe for 55 years. Only about 3 years ago we started bottling it. It's quite a process to get all that done. And when you work a regular shift and then you got to go home and work on a label or something, it's just not a lot of fun. Or go research bottles and, you know, lids and whatnot. It's just not always a lot of fun. So it took a lot longer than we ever wanted. We could have been bottling that stuff, you know, for years and years and years. But anyway, it's been well received. We have Reynolds next door that sells it. And then we sell it here, of course, at the counter. And it's all throughout Montana. In fact, there's 4 locations in Billings. It's over at Swan Lake at the little trading post. It's at the High Country Beef Jerky place. It's in Lucky's Market. It's all over Montana in small quantities. I've shipped it to Kansas, Idaho, Texas, and a case of barbecue sauce weighs about 32 pounds, so it's not cheap to ship. But usually people that taste it, they want more.
Yum. Visit underthebigsky.com to watch a barbecue sauce. Rewatch all of our stories. Words are hard.
Words are
really hard.
But this next story is pretty exciting for those Cats fans out there. Of course, the Bobcats won on and off the field on Saturday.
That's right. After losing the Canada Grizz food drive to Missoula last year, Cats fans stepped up, won the friendly contest this season. Cats collected 263,263 pounds and $185,500 cash. Meanwhile, Grizz fans donated 210,700 pounds of food and $193,000 in donation. Cats have won the contest 16 of the last 19 years. In all 19 years, folks who need food have won. It's a winner. Nearly 1 million pounds worth of, or more than 500,000 pounds of food.
So we beat them by about 50,000 pounds, but then they actually raised almost $8,000 more than us. But yeah, it's the food that counts.
And they put that all together into a single total. But again, almost 500,000 pounds of food raised in Montana.
I gotta say, congrats all around. Everyone's a
that.
winner. Everyone's a winner.
No losers.
No losers.
No.
Except for the Grizz on the football field.
Rewatch.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, stay with us. In a moment, we take a look at the ancient method of hair removal, now very popular at a salon in Bozeman for men and women. And then coming up later on the show.
Good morning ahead here on CBS This Morning. The number of people missing from California's deadliest wildfire nears 1,000. We'll look at rescue efforts as well as the physical and emotional toll firefighters face year-round. And about 5 billion robocalls were placed just last month. How phone companies are trying to bring them to an end and what you can do to stop them now. We'll see at 7.